Oh,
Yeah.
hey, it is not Wednesday evening. It is Sunday morning. What? What are we doing here? Oh my gosh. That said, it's very good to be back. And thank you, Norm, for accommodating my new schedule, which is why we are now broadcasting Sunday mornings. And the hope is, though, is that on a weekend, maybe more people can join us live because it's the weekend. So we'll
Right.
see.
That's the point. Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a great idea. It's going to be awesome once we kind of like get our biorhythms set to Sunday mornings. Because,
Oh, man.
one of the things we liked about the Wednesday shows, it's the end of hump day, right?
Yeah.
Also at evening, so we can evening brevari as opposed to morning brevari, which still might happen.
A little different.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, are you drinking Brevari? It's 10 a.m. for us, Pacific time.
All I'm admitting is that I'm having Mr. Garibaldi's special coffee. That's all I'm admitting.
Well, I debated maybe next week I'll do a mimosa or something. Because, 10 a.m., you could maybe do some brunch or something. That's a very California thing. But today, because I was up a little late last night and I didn't get a whole lot of sleep, we have coffee. And then we're going to chase that down with some soda. So.
I'm sure you were up all last night rewatching season 2 to make sure that your notes were.
Of course I was, with copious amounts of bravado.
Excellent. I expected no less. So last show, I had to do the solo filibuster, which was fun and terrifying at the same time.
I'm sure you did great. I have not had time, unfortunately, to watch it, but from the feedback I've seen, it was a great show.
It was interesting. It was an interesting perspective on rewatching TV, not just Babylon 5, but rewatching TV in general, because we all have our rewatches and for variety of reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, we have our favorites. We all do.
Yeah.
Some we go back to more than others.
But I missed this. This is what I like doing.
Yeah. This thing right here. We are here to talk all things Babylon 5, and today it's all about season 2, and we have to decide what is absolutely essential viewing of this season and what can you skip? What is the Cliff Notes version of season 2? I tell you what, I was constructing my list yesterday, and there's a few that are really difficult. We're going to have to maybe fight this out. I'm willing to be persuaded by you as well as our listeners. We'll see how much of a dogfight this may or may not be.
Yeah, and there were also a couple of interesting responses on Twitter to this, one of which I thought was, I'll bring up when it comes up. But
okay.
So we have to lay the ground rules out because
we do.
This is See It or Skip It is a really interesting format because it's not that you shouldn't see it because the episode's necessarily a poor episode, poorly acted, poorly produced, poorly scripted.
Right.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to give a new viewer, or if you want to power through a rewatch and just read the bold print, in your Cliff Notes.
Right.
These are the essential viewing episodes that have to be seen in order for you to understand the major through-line story of Babylon 5. And
that's right.
In our opinion, Shar, that is obviously the narrative of the Shadow War and then the narrative of the Civil War.
Yes. Along with that, important character episodes. What is essential to understanding a character's motivations, who they are, why they are the way they are. That's the foundation of our criteria. If it is essential to the 5-year story and its characters, that's what we're going for.
Yeah, and there can be great character moments, there can be great character episodes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that particular episode or episodes drive the story forward or drive the character forward.
Correct. It has to have meaning going forward. There has to be consequences.
Right. So that being said, there may be a couple of episodes where we personally love them, and they may have one of the best performances of any character in the history of Babylon 5, but don't meet the criteria that we just laid out. So those are kind of like the nail biters. And that's where Shar and I are going to have to kind of either persuade each other or persuade all of you viewers. Speaking of which.
So, it's going to be interesting to see which ones maybe we think are like borderline with that criteria, which ones are not.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. Now, Shar, on the chat, you see Slice of Sci-Fi.
I do.
So Slice of Sci-Fi used to do the very first Babylon 5 podcast.
Oh, cool.
The Babylon podcast.
Okay, nice.
So I was I was nervous as hell last show when Slice of Sci-Fi popped up. But you know what? We know our Babylon 5. We have our own views. We have our own passions about it, and we have our own perspective, right?
What you worried about? We got
Nothing.
this.
I'm not worried anymore.
Is there a little something to calm your nerves in there, sir?
A little bit. You know what? This is a cup full of bagna calda. Bagna calda is that really amazing Italian recipe that Garibaldi tried to smuggle in with the garlic and the anchovies, and it was basically
You're drinking garlic.
Maybe.
Oh, especially first thing in the morning. Oh my!
Garlic, olive oil, anchovies, bagna calda, Parmesan.
Oh mate, no? Okay. I mean, not at 10 in the morning. No, that's like a hearty evening meal. That sounds delicious at 7 p.m.
That's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah, it's true. And you know what? We have viewers all over the world whom I'm hoping with this new time can maybe have at least a little easier time maybe joining us.
I hope so. So that being said, I want to say hi to Slice of Sci-Fi. Hi to John Bowersox. John Bowersox is with us. And my buddy, our bro, Randy.
Fantastic.
So Randy says, I think it took half the season on my first run to Lake Sheridan. That would be season 2, obviously. Yeah.
All right. You know, it's interesting to hear everybody's feedback on like when and if they decided they liked Sheridan. Some people get really attached to Sinclair, and then all of a sudden there's the break with Sheridan and like, oh, who's this guy? And they are different. And so some people gravitate more towards Sheridan, other people hang on to Sinclair. And it's cool to hear people's stories on like how they process that transition, basically.
So we're going to read the short synopsis. We're reading them. I'm reading them from the Wikipedia. Is that where you're reading them from, Shar, or do you have your own?
I use Lurker's Guide this time.
Okay, cool.
To help me compile, yeah.
Okay. So I'll because they're short synopses, but the deliberations are going to be amazeballs.
Some of these we're going to go through really quick. Others are going to take a lot longer. So, with that said, shall we get started?
Shall we vow to ooh?
Oh, most definitely we must. Even though there's not brevade, we shall vow to
ooh. I was about to start the whole show with good morning, Zocalo.
You know, that would have been kind of cute.
I don't know if that's trademarked or not. So non-monetized. Sorry, not sorry.
Before we officially dive in, let's say hi to Dana. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful morning.
Yeah, hi, Dana. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. All right. Episode 201.
Can I read
departure?
Can I read the opening? Because I'm feeling. I got a haircut yesterday, as you can tell.
Oh yes. You're kind of sporting more of the season 4 Sheridan look again.
But I wanted to read the Coming of Shadows opening in the Sheridan voice if I can.
Have it.
Okay. Everybody get ready. Think about Bruce Boxleitner.
Get that gravelly voice going, sir.
The Babylon Project was our last best hope for peace. A self-contained world 5 miles long, located in neutral territory. A place of commerce and diplomacy for 250,000 humans and aliens. A shining beacon in space, all alone in the night. It was the dawn of the third age of mankind, the year the Great War came upon us all. This is the story of the last of the Babylon stations. The year is 2259. The name of the place is Babylon 5. Nice.
I like your interpretation of the Sheridan voice.
Was it like Sheridan meets Kirk?
Maybe a little bit. It's kind of a little more gravelly season 5 Sheridan as opposed to season 2. He doesn't have as gravelly of a voice when he comes aboard for the first time.
Hopefully I have. Yeah, he hasn't been beaten down yet by the Shadow War, the Civil War.
He hasn't fought 2 wars yet. He's not become president.
He hasn't. He hasn't been.
He goes through a lot. The poor guy.
Right. That's right. His voice gets more epic as his goatee gets more epic. Right.
Yeah. I mean, he goes through some things. Yo.
Yeah. All right. Let's hit it.
Okay. Points of departure. Shall you read the synopses for us, please?
I shall. So this is episode 1, directed by Points of Departure, directed by Janet Greek, written by J. Michael Straczynski. Captain John Sheridan takes command of Babylon 5 after Sinclair is reassigned. A rogue Minbari warship is on the loose, and the truth behind the end of the Minbari War is revealed.
Dun dun dun. Starting things off. Okay, we have a new captain. This one is easy. We have to keep it. It's essential. This is the introduction of John J. Sheridan. Without this, it's like, who is this guy? It's already kind of a little jarring because it's a new captain and all of a sudden Sinclair's gone. Why?
Right.
But we have to have this. It's also really good backstory about Sheridan's involvement in the Earth Minbari War, and white Minbari hate him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's so much to unpack in this episode, and that's this episode. See it or skip it is not for that. This is just
this is required.
Yeah, this is absolutely this goes beyond see it. This is a must see, because if you don't see this, you don't know what the heck is going on.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, if into like on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how essential this is a 10. This is a must see. You cannot skip it at all.
I mean, ever. Sinclair is gone. Sheridan's reassigned from the Agamemnon to Babylon 5. Delenn is in a cocoon.
Yeah. About yay high.
What did he say? Something like butterfly or something? And then Ivanova just says, yes. About yay high.
Yeah, something. Yeah, as in a moth or a butterfly.
Butterfly. Yes.
Yes.
About yay high.
Yes.
And then Jakar is gone. Jakar he's left. So
yes, and Garibaldi's in his coma.
And Garibaldi's in a coma. And this is what Sheridan inherits.
I mean, what a mess. What a hot freaking mess.
Must see. Must see.
Must see. Speaking of must sees, how about the next episode, Revelations?
Okay, so am I continuing?
Please read the synopsis. I already gave away my hand. I think it's essential to keep it, but here we go. All right. I'm jumping the gun a little bit. Caffeine's kicking in.
Caffeine kicking in. All right.
A little bit.
Okay,
here we go.
Episode 2, Revelations, directed by Jim Johnson, written by J. Michael Straczynski. I'm going to say it's basically everything's written by J. Michael Straczynski until I say it's written by somebody else.
Okay, sounds good. That's a good methodology at this point.
Dr. Franklin takes extreme measures to save Mr. Garibaldi. Delenn emerges from her chrysalis cocoon. Sheridan's sister arrives for a visit. Londo's dealing with Mr. Morton become even more complex. And Jakar returns from his travels with a dire warning. Okay,
again, a lot to unpack here. We're essentially wrapping up where Chrysalis left off. Yes. we were kind of tying up some of those loose ends that had just exploded the end of season 1. Absolutely essential viewing. 10 out of 10.
Do you think? I agree. This is absolutely essential viewing. It's like Chrysalis, Points of Departure, and Revelations can be a trilogy.
I think that's a good way of looking at it.
And you could probably edit it into Highlander, the series of which I'm a huge fan of. They used to actually take their 2-parters, much like they did with Star Trek, like Best of Both Worlds and Chain of Command, and what was the other big one?
I don't know. There's Redemption.
Yeah, Redemption, and they spliced those into movies. They took out all the commercials, they took out the cliffhangers, and they turned them into movies. Nice. This very much could be the same thing. And I'm wondering if you would actually have needed a point. Obviously, you probably wouldn't have needed a points of departure and could have rolled right into Revelations if Michael O'Hara continued.
Yeah. That would have certainly eased the transition a little bit. Yeah, because, you kind of stop for a second to introduce Sheridan, and then you get right back into the middle of everything that's happening.
Exactly. So you have to introduce Sheridan, obviously, but Revelations is an absolute must-see, or else you still won't know what the heck is going on.
Absolutely. So, essential viewing.
Essential viewing. So we're both on the same page.
Okay. Next one, The Geometry of Shadows.
Episode 3, directed by Mike Vehar, and I almost said written by. Let's see. Londo continues to seek prestige and power back home. A group of techno-mages visits the station, and Ivanova is forced to settle a dangerous dispute.
Yo, purple, team purple today.
Among the drowsy population.
Okay. What do you think about this one, buddy?
Okay, so I love this episode, and I think that it does great for the series as an episode, but I don't think it does great for the narrative of our criteria for see it or skip it. So for me, I'm going to actually say you don't have to see this episode in order for you to understand the story at this point.
I might have to argue with you on this one.
Let's do it.
Okay, I think Ivanova's promotion is what makes this a keeper. Because one, you should know that she got a promotion and therefore she's getting different and new responsibilities. This is her first foray into that. We see this continue. Now, the question is, though, how essential is that going forward? Can you connect the dots later on where she's doing more things with the fine arts of diplomacy? Or in season 4, when she goes to that Drazi engagement later on and she's wearing her green sash and whatnot. Can we get away with that?
That's a really, really good point. I mean, I think that for me, even more so than the Londo storyline, even though it's a lot of fun to watch him get plagued by the techno mages, even though it is great to see Michael Ansara play Elric and have dropped these really great nuggets of dialogue, of which, in my opinion, still aren't really Straczynski's dialogue. There are a lot of Tolkien's dialogue, like techno mages are quick to anger, things like that. Ivanova's storyline is the most important part because you're right. She does get her lieutenant commander rank. She does get promoted. Her first thing is to settle this Drazi green-purple thing.
Yes.
But at the same time, though, it doesn't change who she is as a character.
Yeah, maybe not. You make a good point there. Yeah.
I'm splitting the finest here, and it's only because we have to like kind of put, like I said, I'm giving up a Londo storyline big time, and a really good one too.
Well, and the thing with that is that the techno mages aren't necessarily important to Babylon 5 proper. They're really important to Crusade, but we're not talking about that here. So that doesn't really matter. It's Ivanova that's got me a little fixated here. You're kind of, I'm able to go along. If we skip this one, I'm okay with it.
I don't think that, like I said, it's like if these are some of these really, really tight splitting hairs. Yeah. But at the same time, though, it's like when Ambassador Jakar becomes Citizen Jakar, it doesn't change Jakar. It just changes his title.
Yeah, right? But is it really important to know that? I mean, we're skipping ahead a little bit, but...
Well, I think for Jakar it is, because once he loses his ambassadorialship, he loses his political influence on the station.
Certainly.
But he doesn't lose his cultural influence as Jakar. So, you know what I mean? It's like people would still fear Ivanova if Ivanova wasn't... Even if Ivana was just a lieutenant, they would still fear her. It's Ivanova.
Well, it's absolutely true. She is God.
God does not need a rank, but I understand what you're saying. I totally understand what you're saying. I can go either way, really.
Well, same. I could go either way at this point.
Okay, so
also, we have a little bit of a green and purple conversation happening in the chat. So good job, guys. It had to happen, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, man,
let's see if our listeners can sway.
Let's see what their opinion is. Maybe they can sway us.
Okay, so Slice of Sci-Fi says purple, obviously.
Duh. At least it is today.
Slice of Sci-Fi also says you will need to know about the Techno Mage's warning to Londo as well. There's also a callback to when Ivanova, is Green Leader again.
Right. That was something I was saying earlier. I mean, again, that's not necessarily essential, but I think when you see that sash around her, if you don't understand why she's wearing it, you are missing some information, but how essential is it? That's what we're trying to get to the bottom of.
True. And John Bowersock says she had a great sash, so he obviously agrees with you. Slice of Sci-Fi still continuing with that thread of the warning. Elric's warning is later echoed by Lady Morella. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff where Londo, all signs are pointing to him. Oh, you have this destiny. This is how things are going to go. Mm-hmm. Honestly, when we get to season 3, I think Lady Morella and her prophecy, her telling of the future is much more important than the Technomages. At me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's just that quote is so great. I see a great hand reaching out of the stars.
Right. I know.
And all so good. When so many people are crying out your names, like my followers, like your victims. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Loaded.
All right. You know what?
Let's put this one on hold and see what if we got a little more input from our listeners, and then if not, we'll Let's maybe do the next one, come
Okay.
back to this one
All right.
with their
All
input,
right.
and then make a decision from there. Does that sound good?
I will make a note on that. A really good one to deliberate. That's for sure.
Okay, so our next one is A Distant Star.
Right. So episode 4, written by DC Fontana, directed by Jim Johnson. Sheridan launches a dangerous operation to rescue an Earth exploration ship captained by his friend when it is stranded in hyperspace. Delen's authority within the Minbari is questioned as a result of her transformation.
Okay. I say this is potentially skippable because the things that we're dealing with, as far as Delen goes, you can connect the dots when she is ousted from the Grey Council. That happens shortly after this one. With Sheridan kind of trying to adjust to his new job and what have you, how important is it to actually see him adjusting to the difficulties of the realities of running a station as opposed to a deep space cruiser? I think you can get away with skipping this one. It's not essential to the bigger story at large.
I agree. I agree. And if there's one thing in this episode, and I'm sorry because I love Dorothy's writing.
Oh, me
most
too.
of
I
the
love
time,
DC Fontana.
right? But I wish that the whole stinky swamp rat thing was just written out. It just didn't work for
Really?
me. Yeah,
Really?
I just didn't like it.
You know, maybe if we, I don't know, maybe if we knew a little more about this guy, we only see Captain Maynard once.
Yeah.
It's completely inconsequential. Maybe if we'd known a little more, seen him a little more, it could have been a little more endearing.
Or maybe if they brought that up in the beginning somewhere.
Uh-huh.
You know, like back when Sheridan was, a young scrub.
Some sort of flashback scene or something.
Yeah, it's just that Stinky and Swamp Rat are just so, I don't know, cliche, when it comes to...
It's kind of a generic pet name, sure.
Yeah. So anyway,
so are we voting to skip this?
Yeah, I understand what they were doing with it. I understand what DC was doing with it. It's a good character back builder. It's kind of like when editors have to cut stuff out of a major motion picture, this is the kind of stuff they cut out in order to save time, in order to get under that 2-hour mark.
We know that Sheridan was a ship commander. He's a good fighter. And whatnot. He can think on his feet. It is great to see him adjusting to this very different position, but yeah, it doesn't really suit the criteria that we have stated here. So skip this one.
Yep.
And now we go back to the geometry of shadows, and our listeners do not have a whole lot more to say. John Bowersock says one time just isn't enough. I don't know if he's referring to this episode or not, but I mean, I agree. You should watch Babylon 5 multiple times.
I agree. Let's see. Slice of Sci-Fi says, I think there was something on the commentary track about how both Bruce and Russ had less Hollywood clout at the time than Russ's daughter, Amber.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Geometry of shadows. Should we just flip a coin on this one? I mean, we're both pretty torn.
You know what? I'm gonna reverse my position.
You want to keep it?
Yeah, I'm gonna say see it.
Okay. Because 55%, I'm willing to keep it for sure. All right, let's keep it. Okay. We're gonna keep it.
Okay.
All right. So then we go to The Long Dark.
Okay, The Long Dark, directed by Mario DeLeo and written by Scott Frost. A cryonic exploration vessel from 100 years ago approaches Babylon 5, bringing with it a deadly creature and a human from the past.
Okay. This does not actually have anything really to do with my selection. This is one of the weaker episodes of season 2, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But it's completely skippable because the Copernicus story, it doesn't really have any lasting impact going forward, and Franklin's romance goes nowhere. We do learn that Garibaldi was a Gropo in this episode, but we can gain that context elsewhere. There's really nothing here.
Again, yeah. Two things I just want to make note before, because I agree. I think you can skip this episode.
Uh-huh.
But two things I want to make perfectly clear about our criteria, and this is a really good episode to justify that. One, I can't remember his name. Barkley.
Oh, Dwight Schultz.
Dwight Schultz was awesome in this episode.
He really was. He played a great character.
Amos, right?
Yes.
Yes. He was really good. And this is the first really good Dr. Stephen Franklin episode that we got so far. I mean, we've seen him do bits of here and there. I mean, he did the important stuff, like get Garibaldi back on his feet, go with the alien healing device and all that kind of stuff. But this is actually it's kind of like the distant star backstory for Franklin. You know, he gets a little bit of a romance. He gets a little bit of a history. He gets a little bit of just more screen time. But that doesn't make this a great episode for the narrative. It makes a great episode for him.
And I don't even think it's that great for him. I think there's better. Because what happens here is fairly inconsequential to his character. It doesn't shape him in any way, really.
But it allows Biggs to act more. Was what I'm saying. It's not great for.
Okay,
I should
that's great.
That, right. It's not a great Stephen Franklin episode. It's great for Biggs to get a little bit more screen time.
Right, but that's not a part of our criteria.
Nope. And it's not a great episode, so it's very easy.
It's really not. Unfortunately, it's one of the weaker links of season 2, so we can skip this one.
Yep.
Okay, A Spider in the Web.
Episode, where are we at? 6?
6.
Directed
We're going through these way too slow.
Directed by Kevin G. Kremen, written by Larry DiTillo. An old friend of Talia Winters is murdered by what appears to be an agent of a Martian resistance movement.
Okay, so we're into Free Mars territory here. This is also where we learn that Sheridan is kind of into conspiracies and what's going on behind the scenes. How is this essential though? Do we have to know these things?
I think it's a really cool episode. I'm a big fan of Michael Beck?
Oh gosh, I don't really remember. This is one of my lesser favorite episodes. I mean, honestly, if I'm rewatching it, I might skip this one.
I think it was Michael Beck. But yeah, I'm also a big fan of Adrienne Barbeau. I love seeing older actors and actresses getting recycled through the show. But it had some interesting ideas. But again, it's nothing in tune with the master narrative. So yeah, I could skip this one.
Okay, let's skip it then. John Bauer socks, conspiracies, tinfoil hats. Yeah, it makes me wonder why Sheridan's so into conspiracies. But I mean, it kind of works in his favor in this narrative, and he's not into like the flat earth crazy stuff. So that's cool. Right. Oh, Slice of Sci-Fi does mention Bureau 13. There is stuff in here with that. But again, how essential is that to the overall story? It's great for this, but I think as you keep going, that's forgettable.
Yeah. And early on in TV shows, they try a lot of different devices, if you will. Like Home Guard was mentioned a lot in season 1, but that really became Night Watch.
Yes, it evolved into Night Watch, and then you forget about Home Guard once Night Watch kind of takes the spotlight.
Right.
That's kind of what this is like.
Yeah, Bureau 13 could have evolved into something else, the Ministry of Intelligence or whatever like that, but it just gets forgotten.
Right. Okay, so we're going to skip that. Next one up is Soulmates, episode 8.
Londo's 3 wives arrive on the station.
Pestilence, famine, and death.
Delenn seeks Ivanova's help in adjusting to her new human characteristics. Wash.
Yeah. Washing?
That was hilarious. And Talia's ex-husband, a fellow Psi-Corps telepath, arrives on the station with an intriguing story. Written by Peter David. Yeah,
the wonderful Peter David. This, I think this is a keeper. It is a very entertaining episode, but I think you get a bit of Centauri culture here because we learn a little bit more about Londo's wives and just kind of how their society works. Like, what do the wives even really do? We learn a little bit about that. Talia's past with Matt Stoner brings up good backstory for her, as well as Psi-Corps information. And Delenn's bad hair day, it's comedic. It's not essential. But her very last question to Ivanova in this episode is essential because it implies that her reproductive system has changed, making her more compatible with humans, which matters a lot later on.
I agree. Yeah, I was on the fence about this because I was on the fence about Geometry of Shadows. And in my opinion, Geometry of Shadows compared to Soulmates is a much more integral episode to the overall narrative. But there's a lot of stuff going on with Soulmates, especially with a lot of everything that you said. So I was on the maybe see it, maybe skip it. I wasn't on the firmly skip it, but I was on the maybe, but you convinced me. So I say see it.
Okay, we're going to keep it. All right. And Slice of Sci-Fi agrees with us. So you know what? Majority rules.
There you go.
Done and done.
Okay. So the next episode, we are at episode 7.
Right. A Race Through Dark Places.
A Race Through Dark Places. I don't even have to read this. I'll just say see it.
I agree. I mean, there's so much Psych-Core stuff here. You have to watch this.
Right. So I'll read it anyway. So
okay, go for it.
Psy-Cop Alfred Bester returns to Babylon 5, searching for an underground railroad, helping rogue telepaths to escape the core. His arrival sparks discord among the command staff as they realize that an insider is helping the railroad. Huge story.
Yeah, you have to see this one. Also, Sheridan and Delen's first date. Come on. Now, that may not be essential, but it kind of is.
No, it is because it doesn't start the romance. It starts the alliance between Earth and Minbar.
There you go. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. They're kind of bridging that gap. They find common ground. They have more in common than they ever imagined.
Right. They're getting to that stage where Sinclair and Delen were, where they were allies against the darkness, as opposed to romantic. This being a romantic interlude as of right now.
Right. Okay. But, so this is.
But is this I can't. A lot of the coffee. The coffee's muddling my brain a little bit. But
it's got to be one substance or the other, right?
Is this one? Is this where Bester walks through and he says, "Anatomically impossible, Mr. Garibaldi, but you are willing to try."
I do not remember if that's this episode or not, but that's such a great line.
That's one of my favorite lines ever in any show ever. So
it's so good.
Yeah.
So this is an absolute keeper. You must know it for Psych-Core information alone.
Yes. Okay. Total keeper.
Next one is The Coming of Shadows.
Episode 9, directed by the great Janet Greek.
Yo, oranges.
Centauri Emperor Turhan comes to Babylon 5 for a state visit, prompting extreme behavior from both G'Kar and Londo. Garibaldi encounters a group called the Rangers. So when you read a line like Garibaldi encounters a group called the Rangers, I'm pretty sure that that's where we vote.
I think that makes it a keeper because the Rangers are kind of an important big deal later on.
Yep.
So yeah, they're introduced here. They become very super important. That makes it essential. Also, the roller coaster that even just G'Kar goes on alone in this episode with the Centauri Emperor and whatnot. You got to have that. You've got to.
And also interesting that it brings up the same vision that, was it Lord Kiro's wife had in Babylon 5 where she's seeing fire.
Yeah.
And then Emperor Turhan asks for, Kosh. He goes, how will this all end? And Kosh says, in fire.
Yes.
Right. Yes. So.
Oh, Slice of Sci-Fi has a great comment. This was a Hugo winner. So, yeah. Hey, if it's winning awards, you should probably watch it. It's that good.
It's also that great scene where Londo is supposed to have that drink with, like, G'Kar's going to forgive Londo.
Yes.
He goes, Malari, I want you to have a drink.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's so good watching G'Kar go up and down, up and down. Side note. In high school, I had to memorize like a little bit of a monologue and then recite it in front of my class. Mm-hmm. I think it was for English. And I picked G'Kar's speech about, I had the dagger in my hand. And that's the scene that I did for that assignment.
That's awesome. Very cool. So obviously we are big fans of this. The Hugo Award.
It's a must.
The Hugo Award.
Yeah.
Board obviously loves it.
Kind of a big deal.
Big deal. Big deal.
Okay. John Bowersock says, anything with fire, things are going to get intense. That is quite true. Absolutely.
So.
Okay. Oh, and Slice of Sci-Fi has a Weekend at Bernie's moment. Maybe they can prop him up for a few minutes.
And I know that Slice of Sci-Fi is a huge Firefly fan. Wow, tongue twister. So. In The Coming of Shadows, I'm sure that you recognize the Ranger at the end of that episode being in Firefly.
There you go. Nice. Mm-hmm. All right. Our next one is episode 10, Gropos.
Babylon 5 plays host. Directed by Jim Johnson, written by Larry Totillo. Babylon 5 plays host to 25,000 Earth Force Marines known as Ground Pounders, led by General Blood and Guts Richard Franklin.
There you go. I think this is a keeper because this might be the best Franklin character story we ever get. By watching him interact with his father, I think you learn a lot about why Stephen is the way he is, how he became who he is, why he believes what he does. I mean, the contrast, it cannot be more blunt between these two. And so you got to see that to really understand Franklin, I think.
And that I agree. And at the same time, you also see that they're not estranged. They're just at odds. They're both very strong personalities. You see where
strong-willed,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, this is probably Kefir's best episode too.
I think you're right. And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, Kefir, for the most part, is neither here nor there, but he is, I guess, important enough in season 2 where you got to include him a little bit.
And small details like, the two Gropos that are harassing Delenn. I mean, there's still a lot of hate and resentment, and she's
Absolutely.
and they know that she's an ambassador. They don't care. To them, she's just another Minbari. She's another bonehead, right?
Right. Yeah. You know what? That is a really small but a good component where maybe in some of the episodes that we've skipped, maybe you kind of need to see how people feel about her transformation. You get that from both a Minbari perspective and a human perspective, and it turns out neither side is really crazy about it.
No, that's the fate that Delenn walks because her choice has to be so grand.
Right. Yeah. And in season 2, she has that great line about being alone in a crowd. This profoundly affects her in this season.
Mm-hmm.
The consequences of the transformation. So a very small moment, but on top of all the reasons why you should keep this episode, you get good context with minor stuff too.
You also get Dodger and Garibaldi.
And she comes back later on. Spoiler alert. So yeah, you kind of need to know that.
I love Dodger.
Dodger's great.
Yeah.
I freaking love her.
Yeah. So that's a see it. That was an easy see it.
That's an easy see it.
Okay. So episode 11, All Alone in the Night, directed by Mario DeLeo. During a Star Fury flight, Sheridan is kidnapped by an unknown alien race. Delenn is summoned by the Grand Council to hear her fate.
Okay. So I think this is a keeper. The one redeeming factor to Sheridan's story, which I think is somewhat inconsequential overall, is that this is where we meet Talon. So, I mean, going forward, that means something. You could skip that part of the story and Talon could come in later and it's fine. But the really important element of this episode is Delenn being outed of the Great Council and being replaced by Neroon. Mm-hmm. Oh, and we also get General Haig and Sheridan's weird fever dream. They discuss at length later on.
Is this the one where it's like I'm the hand? What does that mean?
Right. Yeah, you are the hand.
You're the hand?
That's how I felt about it too, to be quite honest.
Well, there's a lot in that dream that kind of goes somewhere and kind of goes nowhere. I guess it's just one of those.
Yeah, it's weird and cryptic.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's what I like about this episode is one, yes, we're really seeing kind of now where you're really seeing the Minbari warrior cast start to flex their muscle because at the very beginning, in points of departure, you know that the Minbari warrior cast are still sore about surrendering at the Battle of the Line because reasons.
Yep.
Reasons of which they don't know.
Well, that's just it. They don't have the full context, so it kind of makes some sense that they're a little butthurt about this.
Yeah, they were literally kind of I guess
they were kept in the dark.
And if you want to use a human euphemism, they were emasculated right at the point where if things were going to happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So
and Neroon coming back.
Neroon.
Right?
Yeah, he matters down the road. So that is what makes this episode a keeper, in my opinion. What do you say?
Yes, absolutely a keeper.
Keep it?
Yes.
Okay.
And some people might look at this and like, why? Because it doesn't have this great storyline, but it has a driving storyline.
It has important developments that you do need to know going forward, and that matches with our criteria.
Yep.
I mean, this is not my favorite episode, but it's a keeper.
It's a keeper. So we're going to episode 12, Acts of Sacrifice.
Boom shabalaba.
Yes, sir. 3 bags full. So
I could recite the whole thing, but let's not.
Jakar attempts to. Well, I think we know how we feel about this one. Jakar attempts to rally support for his people from Sheridan and the Earth Alliance. Ivanova goes to great lengths to secure an alliance with a new race.
All right, so tensions getting much more intense between the Narn and the Centauri. I think that's important to know. We need to kind of see this progression going on.
Mhm.
And you also get Ivanova's creative solution to a difficult diplomatic situation, more on the fine art of diplomacy.
I believe that the interpreter, after Ivanova's lovemaking session, human style,
Yes.
knew what was going on and just kind of held his tongue.
He was laughing inside. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like,
And good for him.
yeah, he was like,
He's got to put up with that a-hole.
you just got humiliated, but I'm not going to make any note of that at all.
Right. And even though the Lumati storyline, I mean, we never see or hear from them again. And honestly, good riddance. That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other stuff with the Nard and the Centauri conflict, you've really got to kind of see where things are going.
Yeah. And we haven't seen that escalate since the betrayal from Coming of Shadows. You know,
it's good
there.
to check in.
Yeah, it's there, but totally see it. Totally see it.
All right. So that is a see it.
Yep. So we have next is episode 13, Hunter Prey, directed by, is it Menachem Benetsky?
I am not sure.
I think I got that right. The command staff races against time and Earth Force to find a missing doctor who has information on President Santiago's assassination. So that's...
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of important information. You can get that elsewhere, though. I mean, as late as season 3, you know, we confirm that, yeah, President Clark is up to no good. This one is where I'm on the fence just a little bit. We do learn some Vorlon information, like how Kosh's ship is alive and it's a part of him. Can you learn that later? Because when Kosh dies and his ship goes back to the Vorlon homeworld, they kind of re-explain that again, where, look, this was a part of him and it's never going to be quite the same. So I'm kind of wondering, do you have to know this at this point? A lot of the Dr. Jacobs stuff is forgettable. There is this stuff with Sheridan and Kosh, though, and that's what kind of has got me tripped up.
Yeah, see, there's a lot of Kosh and Sheridan relationship building in this, but remember, we're trying to consolidate this into, I guess, like the high points.
Yeah, well, kind of essential points, not necessarily high points.
Yeah, essential points, but I was on the fence.
Are you? Where are you at? Like a 60-40, 50-50?
More of like a 55-45.
Okay.
Because we haven't really gotten a lot of the conspiracy back to Earth yet. We're dealing a lot with the Shadows, and we're dealing a lot with the Centauri Narn War. Yes. But we haven't really gotten back to what happened with the conspiracy, with General Haig, with what's going on with Clark. We haven't even really seen kind of like the rise in what's going on with like the Home Guard at this time, or the Night Watch, or that storyline. So bringing in the Doctor with this data crystal saying that Clark stepped off to get a physical before at the checkpoint at IO. He wasn't sick, right? He said he departed with a flu, but he wasn't sick. So it reintroduces that thread again. Yeah,
but do we really need to be reminded of it? Can we just connect the dots later? Like, just that's in the back of your mind already. We're going to bring it up a lot more later on. So do we need this checkpoint now?
Probably not. I mean, it's kind of like the same with, I guess with, what was I thinking of? Not the Long Dark. With Spider in the Web, because Spider in the Web starts the whole storyline on Free Mars.
Yeah.
Right? But you don't really need to know that right now. I mean, sure.
No.
See, that's the thing about Babylon 5 that's so tough, is that Straczynski drops nuggets now that'll pay off 2 seasons from now.
Sure, exactly. And this is the point of this exercise, is to decide how important those nuggets are at their time.
Yeah. So I'm on the fence about it. Let's see what the listeners have to say about it later on.
Well, Slice of Sci-Fi says, on the fence, Dr. Jacobs being addicted to stims reflects back to Franklin. That is true. And we're going to see a whole lot of Franklin's progression with his addiction to stims. At this point, it's a warning sign that Franklin might be using stims too much, but we're not going to delve into full-blown addiction yet. That doesn't happen till season 3.
Yeah, if you saw this episode, you wouldn't make the jump that Jacobs being addicted to stims equals Franklin being addicted to stims.
Right. I think what it does show is just how how often stims are used by people in the medical community. They're pulling all-nighters all the time. That's sort of a thing. They're easily abused. I think that's what this is trying to illustrate. But we're going to see a whole lot more of that with Franklin.
True. And that is a season. I don't even want to do season 3, see it or skip it.
It's going to be, it's either going to be the easiest hour of our lives, like just watch them all, or
the most inebriated hour of our lives, or
maybe,
one of them.
Maybe.
Or one of
I'm
them.
all right with that. All right. So should we skip this one?
We could skip it.
I think we can get away with it. I know Terry Jones is probably going to be screaming at us, but he hates these anyway. So
then he should be here talking to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us all the things that we're forgetting that would change our mind.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. That would be
Terry,
that's a challenge to you.
Oh, I know he'll show up for it. So how about the next one? They're All the Honor Lies.
Sheridan. Oh, this is directed by Mike Vehar, written by Peter David. Sheridan nearly loses his command after he kills Minbari in self-defense. Ivanova is placed in charge of a gift shop selling Babylon 5 merchandise. Babylon 5.
That's right.
Yeah.
JS.
I personally can skip it.
I vote for skip it too. There is some good stuff here. Like you learn about, Minbari clans and culture. That's good stuff. But how important is it to the overall story? Not terribly. I mean, you can kind of connect those dots a little later on, I think. Kosh's lesson for Sheridan is cryptic and weird. And if you're just going for essentials, you don't need to see this. You do learn that Veer is considered a failure by his family, but you can catch that later on too. So I guess what I'm saying is let's skip this.
Interestingly enough, Slice of Sci-Fi says There All the Honor Lies. See it.
Okay, why?
Yeah.
Change our mind.
Okay, so as that comment comes in, we'll go to the next episode because we are getting
a little pressed for time. We got a lightning around this stuff.
Let's see. And now for a word, episode 15. An ISN crew spends 36 hours on Babylon 5 to film a documentary capturing a snapshot of life on the station as well as the progress of the Narn Centauri War.
Okay, I'm a little torn on this one because the whole, Dateline in the future storyline doesn't do a whole heck of a lot for me. Like I like it. It's all right. But it's neither here nor there to the bigger story. What does matter are the Narn and Centauri actions here. But we have known that things have been escalating and they're going to continue to do so. So do we need this?
Is this the one that Patrick really got bent about because of the journalism thing?
He hates this episode. I think it might be his least favorite to date.
I remember watching that Babel for 5 and he was not, you could tell just here. He was not having it.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you who don't know, my husband teaches journalism and media writing at the college level. And so he could not stand this episode. He just hated it.
I like the episode later on where I think it's Dan Randall, I think it is.
Oh, right. The other one.
What is it? Basically they cut up and slice up.
Yeah, the way they twist everybody's words.
Yeah, and that's a little bit more. That's a little bit more of a propaganda machine for Clark when ISN gets subjugated, subverted.
Yeah. This is not as good.
I agree. So we can skip.
All right.
And now for a word. Now into In the Shadow of Zahadum.
Okay.
Episode 17.
Yeah.
Sheridan discovers a connection between his late wife and the mysterious Mr. Malden and makes enemies of everyone around him when he and Malden has Morden detained. Elsewhere, the Night Watch is formed on the station. What's to say but see it?
You got to. There's so much here. I mean, just even the whole Morden and Anna Sheridan thing alone is a must.
Right.
But there's tons of information here about the Vorlons, the Shadows, the first ones. I mean, we've got to keep this.
And also, it's kind of when you're looking through these episodes, when you see things like Shadows or Zahadum or Shadows in the title, it's usually a pretty good indicator that you should watch the episode.
Yeah, usually. Right? Yeah, I think that's a good kind of guideline.
Just saying.
Yeah. Should we go back to There All the Honor Lies? and decide if we want to see it or skip it.
I'm still on. Well, let's see. Slice of Sci-Fi says the warrior cast still being resentful of surrendering ties into the Minbari's civil war. Now, I get that, but we're getting a lot of that in other episodes.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So
that's
it's not
enough
like
to keep it.
It's not like the whole thing where when Sheridan says something in death first or something like that, or the Minbari says death first, and that's what Sheridan thought he said, and then they thought there was a Minbari word for something else, like I surrender.
Oh, uh-huh.
Right. You can tell that, yes, that we all know that Sheridan is Starkiller at this time. We all know that he took out the Dralafi, you know, and mined the asteroid field. You all know that everybody, you know, all the Minbari up to a point hate him and resent him. I don't think that you need to make that point more.
Yeah, no.
To keep this episode, that is. Yeah.
I'm voting to skip this one.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. We're good there. All right. So next up is Knives.
So let's see. Directed by Stephen L. Posey, written by Larry DiTillo. Londo is reunited with an old friend, only to be caught in the middle of Republic agendas. An alien life form invades Sheridan's body. So I remember we talked about this before. Automatically, this is a skip it for half of this episode.
If we could just skip half of it, yeah.
But I again, it's like when I said in the beginning, a criteria for this is not because it's a great character or acted episode. It has to deal with the majority of how it works with the narrative. I love this episode personally. It's one of my favorites.
I know you do. I was looking forward to your input on this one.
But my personal favorite doesn't make it, you know, it doesn't hit the criteria of see it or skip it. I love Londo and Veer singing the opera. I love his relationship with Urza Jado. I don't really care about the Sheridan storyline in this, even though they go back to Quadrant 14, or not Quadrant 14, Sector 14. But it just doesn't do anything to further the storyline.
No, not at all. The big stuff is with Londo and Rifa, the Cordo Preto, the sword fight to the death, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like this is one where you can gain context later on.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to skip Knives.
Yes, you can skip Knives.
All right.
Although I would text you to the side and say you really should watch Knives.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. I know you love it, so I was curious if you were going to fight for this one or not.
No, because I have to follow the our strict rules and regulations.
Right, here. That's why they're there. Okay, so the next one, Confessions and Lamentations.
A deadly plague threatens the Markhab race with extinction, leaving Franklin in a race against time to find the cure before even more species are infected.
Okay, this is kind of a tough one. Personally, I love this episode. I think everybody should watch it at least once, but since the plague wipes out the Markhab, and it has some consequences down the line with like the raiding of the jump gate, I don't consider that so important that you absolutely must know it. I mean, you could just kind of get that context later on, and it's really neither here nor there, really. What goes on between Sheridan and Delenn can be skipped because of comes the Inquisitor. Spoiler alert, I want to keep that one. Yeah, I mean, as much as I love it, it's not essential. Doesn't fit the criteria to me.
I agree.
Okay, we're gonna skip it. Oh, this was a heartbreaker, though. It really was.
Well, it's a great. Again, you have great moments. You have Delenn and Lanier. They basically said, "We're not sure if we're walking out of this bulkhead or this airlock alive." Yeah, you know, this quarantine zone, but we are here to offer comfort. It's a Minbari's calling to offer comfort in this particular time. That's. Yep. Especially religious cast.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Really tough to skip this one, but you know, that damn criteria. Mm-hmm. All right. How about Divided Loyalties? Episode 20.
Directed by Jesus Trevino. Lita Alexander returns to Babylon 5 with the news that one of the command staff may unknowingly be a sleeper agent for the Psi Corps. So all you really need to know about this episode is Lita Alexander returns to Babylon 5.
Yes. Keep. There's also that whole thing with Talia being a sleeper and a main character departing.
Yes. And
so that's kind of important. And you do learn in this one that Ivanova is a latent telepath. So key stuff.
And the implosion of Talia's and Ivanova's relationship, which has been building over the course of season 1.
They just barely got going and then bam, it's all done.
Which makes her confession to Delenn later on in season 3 even more heartbreaking?
It is. Yep. So essential, essential, essential.
Yes, very essential.
Okay. The long twilight struggle.
The Centauri war machine rolls on to the Narn homeworld, unknowingly aided by the Shadows, which, while remains of the Narn fleet, plan a last-ditch counterattack.
Okay, do we even really need to debate this? How essential is this?
It's beyond essential.
It's beyond essential. If you're not watching this episode, you're wrong.
This is kind of like I don't want to misremember this, but this is the episode where they bomb Narn with
this is where everything reaches that major turning point. Jakar's stripped of his appointment as ambassador. This is a serious.
That's when when Londo just goes full Darth Londo.
He does. Yeah. So as far as the progression of the Narn Centauri conflict, this is a serious key bullet point here. It's a moment.
But I'm just trying to read something here. I just want to make sure that
And although it's not as essential, we do see the return of Drawl here.
Right. Yeah, but I think it's this is like where, at least for this season, where it comes to a boil with Narn and
boils
Centauri
over.
Yeah, the mass drivers. You're right. Slice of sci-fi. This is that. Remember, I was talking about this in the rewatch episode last week, where there's that great scene where Londo just looks. He's not looking at himself. He's looking through the glass, but the light reflects, and just Peter Jurassic in that
so
episode.
Good.
It's so good. He just looks at it. He's like, I am so disgusted with what I've become, but I have to. It's kind of like all of the ambassadors are caught in this gray area of belonging and not belonging, right?
Yeah.
Because Jakar right now, he doesn't know who to be. He doesn't know to be ambassador or savior. Londo doesn't know how to be Republican or giving up everything he knows about being just a righteous person. Delenn doesn't know. She's caught between human and Minbari, and nothing's settled in between. All the ambassadors are, and this is where
everything's a hot mess.
Right? Sheridan's like, am I on the Earth Alliance side? Am I not on the Earth Alliance side?
Right. Oh yeah, so, everything's all messed up.
Yeah.
This is a nice, it's chaotic good, man.
Bombing a planet with asteroids. Just
that'll do some things.
See it.
All right. We're down to the last two. Comes the Inquisitor.
21. Directed by Mike Vehar. The Vorlons send an Inquisitor to Babylon 5 to test Sheridan and Delenn's readiness to lead the Army of Light. The Narns on board the station begin to challenge Jakar's leadership.
Okay, I consider this essential viewing. This is what cements Sheridan and Delenn as, the quote, right people in the right place at the right time against the upcoming darkness that we've been hearing so much about. And it's important. Also, Rangers showing up again, building that thing up.
Also, so Wayne Alexander as Sebastian.
Yes.
Sebastian.
Yes, Sebastian.
I like Wayne Alexander as all the different characters that he plays, especially Lorien, right?
Oh, yeah.
But coming out of makeup and playing this character, the Inquisitor, I think it's his best role in Babylon 5 for me.
Yeah, I mean, he really does a great job playing this character. I definitely am terrified of him when I see him on screen and torturing Delenn. Hell yeah.
Isn't it interesting that the two big characters that ask the big questions of who are you and what do you want?
What do you want? Yeah.
Are him.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from Morden, but that's what he's essentially getting at with Delenn. It's like, who are you? I'm so and so. No. Those are all titles. Like, who are you?
Yeah. I mean, he strips her down to the core.
Mm-hmm. And that's what he did with Sheridan at the bottom of Zahadum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Lorien
themes.
Did. Right. So, anywho,
it's good stuff.
This isn't just a see it. This is a must see. An absolute must see.
And we have our viewers saying the same thing. Dana agrees. John Bowersox agrees. Majority is unanimous.
Absolutely. So we come to our 22nd and final episode, The Fall of Night, directed by Janet Greek, obviously written by J. Michael Straczynski. The command staff are caught between a rock and a hard place when Sheridan agrees to give sanctuary to a Narn warship. While Earth Force attempts to placate the increasingly aggressive Centauri Republic, the Night Watch begins to expand their influence on the station.
Yeah, this is also essential.
Mhm.
If for anything, if nothing else, we learn why the Vorlons so rarely leave their encounter suits. We learn that beautiful secret. But there's so much more here. Kefir becomes an ex-Kefir, leaves
Yes.
behind that very important footage. There's the gross Night Watch stuff escalating. Yeah, we got to see this.
That's funny the way you put it. Becomes an ex-Kefir.
Oh, that's a JMS thing. If you look on Lurker's Guide, someone said, "Is he really dead?" And he said, "He's an ex-Kefir."
Oh, he's. But you're right. He left the cliffhanger nugget for season 3 because that footage now finally
it
survives.
makes its way to ISN, and everybody starts saying, "Oh, who are these guys? What's going on?"
And this is where G'Kar starts becoming. He goes, you know what? There's something way bigger than us going on right now, because this is where he starts looking more at the Book of Jaquan, and he can put that. I can't jump into season 3 so much, but there is a reference when it was an ambassador or diplomat in Dawe comes in and starts asking all the ambassadors about this footage.
Yes.
So
yeah,
there's that to look forward to. But yes, and also there's a huge note to make about everybody seeing the different versions of Kosh as a god.
Yeah. And for those who didn't see anything at all, I mean, that had to have been the talk of the station for a solid week at least.
Right. And then Londo said, I didn't see anything.
Right.
But
telling.
Yeah. So
a little bit.
That was total see it.
Absolutely. So we have an interesting total here. I did not expect this. With season 1, we said keep 14, skip 8. Season 2, same numbers.
Really?
I was expecting us to see to keep more than season 1, but that was not how it shook out.
Well, I think a lot of season 2, they were still shaking out a lot of Bruce's story, a lot of Sheridan's story. And with Stinky and Swamp Rat, those things just they don't hit the mark because they really don't. They're trying to do backstory with those types of episodes and not the main story. So
yeah, and it's just not endearing at this point.
Yeah, totally.
So I found that terribly interesting, and so going forward, we're just going to have to see what happens. Season 3, it's either going to be the easiest season or the hardest. I'm not sure which.
I think 3 and 4 are both going to be really difficult.
I think so too. And then season 5, I imagine we're going to have, some hearty debate about what to keep and what not. So as we went along, for those of you who like to keep track of our scores, I will update our spreadsheet in our Facebook group because I have our totals there, and I'll upload that shortly later today. So that's where we are with things right now. I'm a little surprised.
I am too. I thought it was going to be a lot more. In 22 episodes, I thought we were going to go. Would we go 18 and
14 and 8?
14 and 8. 14 and 8. I thought it would have been more like 16 and 6, 17 and 5.
I was expecting us to keep more for season 2, but very interesting. That's what makes this so fun, is it's full of surprises.
But we did deliberate fairly heartedly on a couple of episodes.
We did. Yeah, we had to.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Well, and we are over time. We need to wrap this up.
Absolutely. So everybody, thank you for joining us. And thank you for watching us on our new Sunday morning show, which is where we're going to be here.
Sunday
at 10 a.m. I was about to say 10 p.m. 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, if you have your own votes to cast on Char's list when she posts it, let us know, because this discussion doesn't end just because we end it.
Oh, hell no.
This discussion just goes to a completely different format. So
it's all subjective. You can even come up with your own criteria. Play by your own rules.
Absolutely. So what do you think of our new time slot, Char? You like it?
It's going to take a little bit of adjusting, but I think we can make that work. What do you think?
I like it. I think my brain is like a little bit more, I guess, unfettered, unencumbered by the end of a workday or the beginning of a Brevari night. I'm not sure.
Indeed. You know, I will miss the Brevari, but 10 a.m. on a Sunday is not an ideal time for Brevari.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
And you know what? Coffee is always good.
Even Irish coffee.
You could do Irish coffee. Get a little bit of both worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe I have.
Very good.
Anywho, thanks everybody for joining us. If you want to get in contact with us, I have left all of our contact information in the show notes, but we are on the ZócaloCast on Twitter and on the Instagram. Obviously, you know about our Facebook group that's in the post. If you like what you've seen so far, make sure that you please like, share, and subscribe at the
do
button.
All those things.
Hit the button, hit the bell icon to make sure you get your updates. And please share. If you like this, if you're new to this, please share our channel with your Babylon 5 fans, because we just want to, our group has been growing over the last, about a year now, I think?
Almost. In September, it'll be a year.
Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of fun shows on Facebook. A lot of our content in the link is still there on Facebook. We did about 30-something odd shows there.
Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah, and we're happy to be here on YouTube, being YouTube content creators. So thanks everybody for joining us. Char, any last words?
Nada. Let's see you next week.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week back here on Sunday. And until then, be seeing you.